Hello, and welcome back to Lily Pad Porch Chat Podcast. As you can see, I'm your host, Brother Bullfrog. Granted, I ain't too slimy, and I ain't too froggy either. But when I croak to you, I croak for real. And this episode gonna be different because I don't actually truly have a lot planned. But I think I've got enough sitting in my head to talk about that I ain't talked about with y'all. That honestly, we could get this little episode going. For one, I would for sure like to talk about what's going on in Memphis. The XAI, the conditions, the narratives online. And I'd as well just like to talk about, I guess, maybe some of what I've learned just being on the internet and posting videos for content, for incentive, and just for the sake of, reaching people. Especially with the change that my life has undergone now that, I'm out of high school for some time. And college is right on the horizon again for a new semester, of course. But recently, let's start with recent events in my life. I've attended a family reunion, right? And this isn't the first time I've ever attended one, nor the first time I've been at the family reunion with that family. But recently, I showed up and I was seeking answers about my grandfather, my father's father. So my paternal grandfather passed away in 2020, but I'd never gotten to speak to him. And so when I showed up to the family reunion, I'm asking my relatives, my Aunt Irene, also men that knew my grandfather of that time, just how he was as a person. Because if y'all familiar here, I typically talk about Black history or art or souls, the aspect of cultivating the self for the sake of growth and for the sake of learning and connecting with the world around you. I wanted to learn about my grandfather because, for one, like I said, I never met the guy myself while he was alive. But also because I'm trying to understand better parts of my soul. People have been around for a long time. We've been around for over thousands of years, millions even at this point maybe. But life has been around for quite some time. And what that means is, while this body and this name are finite and trivial in the grand scheme of things, the stuff that makes me up is immortal, and it'll be recycled soon after. And so I'm inquiring about the souls that came before me, the souls that aided in my existence, because whatever may satiate them may satiate me too. To better understand my grandfathers, to better understand aspects of myself that I may not know exist. But that isn't to say that we be the same person or that he's an objectively just great and amazing guy. I just wanted to learn about who he was so I could be more familiar with my own heritage, culture, and family history so that I'm not wondering who I am or where I came from. Because as a kid, I'd look up my last name in like dictionaries and such just to see what my name meant. But if you aren't aware, my last name is Hoskins. My name is Dante Hoskins. Don't worry about the A. It's my middle name. Duh. You can probably find that anywhere. But in my research when I was a youngin', I found out that Hoskins means God spear in some, Anglo-Saxon language. Os and skin, God spear. You get other derivatives like Hankins, Oskins, Osmeyer, things of that nature. So a lot of names can derive from that same origin point when it comes to the language. But to know of a name in its history that is not tied to my actual lineage is a bit disheartening. And the name that attaches me to my grandfather isn't truly the name that we share. The name of my families and their kinfolk and who all came before us is lost. And that breaks my heart, honestly. But the reason why all that matters is because at that family reunion, I had a conversation with my relatives, one of my cousin's husbands. His name is Lynn Riley. He owns the community center that we have our family events at. So this is a man that was active in his community. He's engaging with the youth, building them up as people, and is helping out. Like, this is a man who, fuck all the cameras. Well, I might have to bleep that out. I don't want to cuss on YouTube, even though I'm not monetized, so really who cares? But there are probably younger folks that watch my videos, even if I am quite young. But screw all the cameras. There are people that they get out there and they do work in their communities. They talk, they rally, they connect with folks. And that's who Mr. Riley is. But due to, I think, a stroke sometime in the past, he's left with partial mobility in his I think his left side, and so his right side is a bit paralyzed. But over the years, he's gotten better at speaking like he used to, and walking. But whenever I go to those family reunions, I'm sitting, I'm talking to Mr. Lynn, and catch him up on my life. I show him my comic, and I tell him about what I'm worried about and my desires, and he's like, "Have you spoken to an alderman or the city council?" And as obvious as it is, I haven't. I know people do like the things that I say on my TikTok, on my Instagram, but there are far greater people doing true, real work that must be supported, financially especially. And I would definitely like to talk to the city council and leaders of my city, because I don't live far from Memphis, and the things that they're building there, that's already there. Elon Musk's XAI Colossus supercomputer, it's poisoning people. It's poisoning the water. It's wasting that already, because Memphis, the water supply, the aquifers underneath this area, it's quality water. But what they're doing is they're essentially trying to renovate Memphis as what could be a new digital colonial project. They'll build these tech facilities there in places where people are supposed to be staying. People have found lives there. Memphis has been around since the 1820s. Like, this is not a new city. This is a city with a rich history, and even history that I'm going to have to do further research on, because often these black cities that people hail as like murder capital of the world, they used to be quite endowed. They used to be quite self-sufficient until, obviously, as you know, white folks come in and ruin that. People start gentrifying. People start taking away land from people, raising property taxes so that people cannot stay. And so the current state of Memphis is a far cry from what it used to be in history. There's a reason that city has a royal name. There's a reason for that. These words, these names, they matter deeply. Aside from my last name, meaning God Spirit, my name is Dante. My pops obviously named me after the character in Devil May Cry, Dante, Espada. I think that's what his name is. I never got to play Devil May Cry myself, but I would like to. And oddly enough, I as well have a twin brother that I care about deeply. But as you would know, Devil May Cry and other works like the Dante's Inferno game is inspired by the Divine Comedy, written by Dante Alighieri. In the year, he was born in 1265, and I think he died in the year 300, if I'm not mistaken. He was born in Florence, Italy, and he writes the Divine Comedy, a 3-part series that dictates his own journey into hell, purgatory, and heaven. But the story overall is about how a man, through the guidance of another man, receives logic, reasoning, and courage, and then reaches heaven to find the woman he's been dreaming of. But I mean, not necessarily that, but this is a story about self-cultivation and returning to the true path. Dante opens up the Inferno, I think, or at least the beginnings of the Divine Comedy, talking about how he awakes in a dark wood far from the true way. And so, in a literal sense, he's lost in a dark forest with visible vision. But in a symbolic sense, he's lost his way. Because Dante's greatest sin, I think, in the precursor pages of the Divine Comedy that explain it, because it wasn't written in English at first, duh. It explains that Dante's biggest sin is sloth. Not enough diligence and praise. Lacks. You get what I'm saying? Like, sloth isn't just about physical laziness and hesitation, apathy, laziness, but as well as just not a diligence and religious reverence. But that matters because we share the same name. And that name, Dante, I'm fairly sure is short for durante, meaning endurance. To persist for a long time or to suffer in silence. I think that's what the definition of endurance is. And so upon being named Dante, it's almost as if I had been set on some sort of echoed path of an original person where I must obviously cultivate myself, share with the world what I've learned, and I'm built to endure whatever hardships will come my way. And obviously, that could just be superstitious, omen-filled, spiritual mumbo-jumbo. But I've come to gain my own lens for how this reality behaves and how I see it. I have to come up with my own personal armor, my own personal vision for tackling this world. But that does mean adopting the perspectives of many other people so that I can understand. when I talk about my name meaning endurance, it means that I've been gifted with a might that I didn't realize was truly visible, a strength to continue that I didn't know I always had. And when I was talking to Mr. Lynn, when I was talking to my relative about what they're doing in Memphis, the XAIs, the FBI in Memphis, the colonization of predominantly black cities, because it's not just Memphis, but when I made my video, obviously, it's to connect with the people that live in Memphis, the people that know me, to give a more personal anecdote of the current colonization, the current bulldozing of predominantly black cities. I was talking to Mr. Lynn and I was explaining to him how upset I was because it's not fair that I already come from people that didn't truly have a lot. When I was at my family reunion, I was speaking to my Aunt Irene. She was born in 1944. So that means she was around 20 years old when integration starts to rear its head and America is reformed into a multiracial society with no real boundaries. You get me? At least none blatant. But there's still obviously laws that are racially codified. They may not explicitly talk about race. And from my relatives, they don't truly open up about life before segregation. Because obviously those are horrors and a hell that no one really wants to recount. And so to know that my people, my lineage has built themselves up even through such oppression, through such hurdles, specifically designed for us as black Southern folk in Mississippi, to know that again, these tech bros and corporations are finna storm into neighborhoods and build stuff that will kill people. That's my gripe. You come into people's homes and take what little they already have. A lot of you don't understand that economically, a majority of Americans are sitting on crumbs. There are people that sit on top of the world and eat an entire pie with more to have. Their hunger is insatiable, and they will eat us all. The ongoing process of the genocide of the black people, of the Negro of this country, is different than what we've ever seen. Chattel slavery redefined what it means to be enslaved. Y'all don't realize that. It has altered the course of human history. It has altered environments, animal behavior, weather. This isn't just history. It was a change of fate. And now, only to see it with my own eyes, mediocre white men of dubious origins storming into cities and taking what does not belong to them. And yes, I do understand that we live on native land. A lot of black folks are comprised of black, native, and white ancestry. So we're not even that far removed from native genocide. And that isn't to claim that oppression, but to say that we are not far removed from it either. So none of this belongs to any of us. And yet these men, with no real substance of their own, can still steal and take. And they're backed by our governments. This is the genocide. When we compare the plight of the people of Memphis or Arkansas or Georgia or Flint, Michigan, or just all across this country with the people of Palestine, it's not to overinflate suffering or to make it seem as though the people of Palestine are not suffering more than we are, but it's to say that what they are experiencing currently is what we will soon undergo. Maybe because you think that, and I even saw someone's comment on my video, because they live in Memphis. They talked about how, the people in Memphis really only face discrimination and neglect. They're not facing a genocide or racial like Palestinian people. What do you think police brutality is? What do you think it was when black people were scared to go to hospitals because they'd be experimented on or injected with disgusting diseases? What do you think it was when they told us we couldn't speak like ourselves? We couldn't act ghetto. We must talk proper. Have you seen black history in other countries? There are people who bleach their skin. Entire movements where black people were supposed to be whitewashed out of existence by genes, blanquismos. That is a form of erasure. That is a form of genocide. It is. Maybe they're not bombing entire cities, but they have, and they will. They can, and they could, and they will. Maybe they're not bombing cities. Maybe they're not, well, I think that's actually the short of it. They've rendered many black women infertile, stolen many bodies. The issue is that this genocide looks different, but it can become far more blatant and obvious. That's what we must be aware of. Palestine is down the street. And this isn't as if this is something I've newly become aware of. But Palestine in the situation, the true situation, not the false narratives that America has been peddling for years, that became aware to me through TikTok, through videos of Palestinian people suffering, through videos of people advocating for ceasefires, for the liberation, for the complete deconstruction of the Israeli state, because it is illegitimate. That is a settler colonial project and it cannot stand. And that's not to say that I'm against people of the Judaistic creed. But there are many people who are Jewish that do not stand with Israel and what they have done to Palestinian people. And before black people come on my comments and say, oh, Palestinian people don't like black people, I need you to understand, they see us the same way. Or at least I'm not talking about Palestinians, I'm talking about the people who commit these genocides. To be black is to be everyone else in this country. You don't get left out. Only when it comes to eating. Everything bad that people face in this world, you will face when you're black. It's almost as if everyone else gets to eat the fullest of palates, the richest of plates. But the only thing we get are scraps, sickness, and tummy aches. That is insured for us. And what is upon the horizon is the same hell we've seen on our phones that we've been ignoring this entire time. When I truly sat back and I was hearing about the FBI in Memphis, the Xai supercomputer that's just siphoning water, killing communities, poisoning the community, I sat and I thought about everything that people have been letting known since Palestine had finally become a mainstream conversation online. And I'm looking at my relatives, I'm looking at my family, I'm looking at my kinfolk, and I'm crying, I'm bawling, dead ass. Because the same hell that I've been watching other people undergo, getting desensitized to, it's going to happen to us. And they will watch and not say a word. They've been testing us. The genocide that black people experience is essentially a form of consumption. The suppression is a form of consumption. And I framed that this way on this channel for a while. They eat us. And wherever they don't eat, they portion out and experiment on. They enslave parts of us. They experiment on the rest. They eat the others that remain. And so what I advocate for is, no, we won't be on your plates. We won't be your palates. The Negro will not be the diet of white America. The Negro, and no one else for that matter, not queer people, not women, especially not black women, will be to be dined on by greater America, consuming our culture, our language, our way of life, and then you deny us that we're the originators of that. That the things that you taste all day are our progeny. And that heats me up inside. Because I'm looking at my parents, I'm looking at my siblings. We're living day by day. We're trying to take things day by day. And even we can't have that. My folks don't come from a lot. Quite literally, as I've learned from my family reunion, even post-slavery, I had ancestors that were having to be sharecroppers. So even after, legislatively, we were freed, we were still enslaved and forced to work day after day, sun up to sundown. A day wasn't guaranteed to us. We fight for every day that we live, and we don't even get to cherish that. And they're trying to take it. How does no one else feel crazy for that? And I deeply apologize to my kinfolk, my family, my siblings, because I know sometimes in real life I come off so irritated, so wound up. And the issue is, I think I was born with that temperament, to be so easily riled. But when I look at the people that matter to me, it's just like, that's going to be us too. Or rather, it's always been us, and it's coming so much faster than we could have thought. And don't nobody give a damn. Let's hustle, let's get money. Let's argue about gender wars all day. Are y'all not scared? There won't be shit to argue about left. Flint, Michigan hasn't had clean water since... shit. How long has it been? It won't stop here. It never does. It won't stop with the Palestinian people, and it won't stop with Memphis. It won't stop with Arkansas. It won't stop with Georgia. It didn't stop with Flint, Michigan. But I'm not yelling at you because it's your fault. I'm yelling because I'm scared, because I'm concerned, because not everyone truly sees it the same way I do. And I'd rather be a fool amongst wise men than a wise man amongst fools, because at least those wise men would save my fool-ass life. But as a wise man alone in a room of fools, I cannot save everyone, and I could barely save myself. This country is deeply individualistic. Deeply. And so when people are facing issues, problems that are caused by systems in play, they blame individual people, individual types of people. Shit, how do you think mass shootings occur? This country encourages that on some level. And we can't say it doesn't, because it continues to happen. Y'all act like these genocides don't exist, but mass shootings still occur. You could go to work and get killed. So why are we still playing this game of going to work, coming home, and acting like they're not taking our days from us? They've stolen our lives before we were born, and we're just forced to agree with that. Honestly, I'm less worried about me and more about the lives of people that have helped me live, because they don't even get to live their lives. My people don't come from a lot. Simple folk. I'm not asking to live a life of luxury. I'm not asking to grovel at the suffering of the next man. I hope he has his fruit tree and his clean water and his home and a loving family. I hope I can have that too. I hope we can intermingle and enjoy that together. No one has to encroach. There's enough on this earth for everyone to prosper. It's always been that way. And maybe maybe when I critique whiteness, things of that nature, it comes off so backhanded. But when you realize what you've lost, you will mourn that every day. This isn't about entitlement. This is more to do with, once you realize, because first, before you even come across information, you already start to understand, well, why is life like this? Does it really have to be this way? That doesn't sound right. And then you learn why. That truly, this was the making of someone else's will to keep their riches and to keep us poor. Then you realize it actually hasn't always been that way, and it doesn't have to be that way. There were times of great prosperity, of great peace. People were able to live far better in the past than now. People talk about how the wealth disparity now in America was worse than France's when they had their revolution. I don't get it. I'm upset. And I don't know what to do. But I still got bills to pay. But I still got to go to work. So who really cares about what's going on down the street? I couldn't even force that burp out. That was wet as hell. But who cares what's going on down the street? But once Palestine, or rather, the men who have subjected Palestine to those current conditions are at your door, what will you do? Will you call 911? You could. Will you ask your neighbor for help? No. No, you wouldn't. Because they've gotten to them too. And they can't even see what you're undergoing. This is a different kind of fear because my body isn't used to it. When I sat in that garage And I'm gassing up. Yes, let's just be honest. You know what this is. This is a pipe. Y'all say hey to Dondre. Y'all haven't even asked how he's doing. Say hi. When I was in the garage gassing, and that Zod get me a little emotional, I started to realize what truly they're about to do, and how everything I was worried about has been down the street the whole time. The same way Malcolm X had been talking about it years ago. The same way people were talking about it on TikTok so long ago. Everything I was worried about was down the street, or is down the street, and it will reach me. Palestine is down the street, but we call it Memphis. But I honestly want to talk more about the narratives that circulate Memphis and the rhetoric of Israeli people onto Palestinian folk. Because a lot of people didn't realize what I was trying to get at. You got to realize, XAI and the Google facility is also about to be built in Memphis as well. These are platforms like X, Twitter specifically, X specifically, will peddle videos of black violence to almost farm for racist engagement. And it's even it's even more sure when they can just flood that comment section with racist bots. They don't have to be real people. And so now all of a sudden the world seems so much more evil, and there's so much more people okay with violence on human bodies. Have y'all met anybody from Memphis for real? Or do y'all just think this is all about murder? When in reality, this is a city that had everything it could offer and was stripped of that. People crowded, people competing for jobs from people outside the state. People will come from other states to work in Memphis, because you gotta realize Memphis is split. Like, some of it's in Tennessee. There's also Memphis that's slick in Arkansas. You get what I'm saying? Like, people are coming from other states to come for work. So now, not only is there job competition, so it's hard to find jobs, there's a lot of circulation in and out of Memphis. And you can't say that land isn't valuable, because if it wasn't, they would not be building $1 million, $1 billion facilities on that land. So what are they going to do to Memphis? Same thing to Palestine. They'll demonize the people, but they'll give them the status of criminality so that it's justified when people are abused, trafficked, abused at routine traffic stops. And people will think, well, militarization is what Memphis needs. I know y'all seen those comments where people are like, oh, Memphis needs to get blown off the map. Such and such. Memphis is the murder capital of the world. And I'm not going to act like it's not awful. That's obtuse. People die in Memphis every day. But for y'all to think that more police is the solution is ridiculous. That's asinine. Point blank. That's asinine. And it's crazy because now when I'm putting out these videos of concern, some of the comments obviously in support. People that follow me know what I'm talking about. But other folks, it's like people will come into these comment sections seeking to correct before they ever extend concern. A lot of y'all would rather preserve your own sense of security and relieve yourselves of having to admit that you may be in the wrong than to change. And that's proven whenever, somebody posts a video to criticize something and the comments don't listen. Don't watch the full video. And I'm seeing that a lot more now. And it's so, because y'all seen my podcast episode about taking stuff personal. Let me check if it's still recording. If it's not, this might have to be a Spotify only episode. Okay. We got 29 minutes on the clock. I know y'all hear that washer going on behind me. My room is right next to everything at this point. So room is constantly inundated with noise. But the same way the Israeli people talk about Palestine is not that different than how y'all talk about Memphis. You dehumanize it. You make it seem like it's a place that deserves to be gone, that deserves to be ravaged. And so once people encroach on that land and they get forceful and they get abusive, y'all will look away. But Memphis ain't the only place. Memphis ain't gonna be the only place with the cop cities and the extra surveillance. I was in Horn Lake the other day and I saw a flock camera for myself the first time. Have y'all seen a flock camera? Them hoes are obnoxious. Once you see them, you're not going to stop seeing them. But there's this long camera with like a sideways panel and a camera that goes like that. I hope I. But you get what I'm saying, right? It's a camera. But that camera not only captures your face, it captures the entire inside of your vehicle, your license plate, and it'll track your entire route throughout the U.S. To be born after 2001 is to be born in the surveillance state of America. That's what this is now. Edward Snowden tried to tell everybody everything. Well, shit, they put him away. And I guess maybe this generation's Edward Snowden would be, well, maybe not this generation's Edward Snowden, but the XAI whistleblower that got murdered. They just killed that guy. He was supposed to testify in court against them, and they just killed him. Yeah, technically it's a suicide. They're trying to count it, but they killed that guy. So I have a personal gripe with AI, whether it's XAI, Google AI, Open AI, because you're stealing from artists for one. You're atrophying the minds of society, and you are quite literally physical cancers that feed on the world around us and are poisoning people. These AIs are not as convenient as you think. It takes real human power to still get them running. It takes hella energy, wasting energy just to get them working. And then half the time they're not even truly accurate. All that money, all that energy you wasted on a robot that doesn't function that well. It's still racist, it still lies, and you can't trust it anymore. How did we go from having all knowledge in human history? Well, not all. There's a lot of shit we done lost, and a lot of public knowledge that people don't have access to. But we had, at least we could go Google something and it'd be correct. Nowadays, AI will tell you to kill yourself. Or it'll tell you, no, I don't want to answer your questions. Just blatantly refuse. And then some of y'all are like, I've seen this whole trend of like, this video going around where it's like people, obviously it's AI generated, and they're like, we're in a prompt, oh my God. And it's like, this is not as impressive as it seems. Like, AI isn't alive, but I don't know about if it would never become alive, if it never becomes sentient. Honestly, there's a bigger conversation to ask about if people can even dictate what sentience is, or if we'd be able to recognize that. How do we measure sentience? Don't know. But that video of, oh my God, we're in a prompt, it's no different if I wrote down my characters in my comic Eat Kings, like, yo, we're in a comic. How could you do this? Like, you wrote it that way on purpose. I mean, yeah, it's creepy, it's meta to think about, but like, at the end of the day, somebody made that happen just to freak you out. Like, it's honestly not that impressive. But man, like, to see what's going on to my city, like, my parents moved from Lambert, Mississippi to up here, city adjacent to Memphis. So regardless of the histories of the places that I was born, that I lived in, or that I am now, there's a constant history of black folks being poor to the extent that they either can't leave or they're forced to leave. So gentrification, the tech colonization that we're seeing nowadays, I've been directly affected by it. And I'm even looking back at my childhood and I'm seeing like, yeah, they're trying to wash things up for white folks to move in, and eventually they'll push us out. It was no, like, the reason we even live in the home we do now, true, is partially due to the benefit of my pops' like VA stuff. That isn't to say they truly really gave him a lot for that. Like, this government treats veterans awfully, and that's a bigger issue. That's related to a TikTok I just posted. But I wouldn't be surprised if the building of the Tanger Mall near the apartments we used to live at would have raised property value, taxes, things of that nature, to where, because living in those apartments was honestly more costly than finding a house at the time. Nowadays, both you're paying an arm and a leg, and you're basically going to be enslaved at your job to afford. Truth be told, this all ties back to slavery. This world watched as black people were allowed to be treated like animals, and then nobles and feudalists and anybody that held capital and hoarded that was like, well, we can do this to everybody. If we call it something different and change up the schedule, the routine a little bit, we can still get away with slavery. And they did. Now y'all working jobs y'all don't care for most of your life, for slivers of your own time to enjoy, while someone else enjoys every day, all the riches, everything. What? it's just like, where is this not like, there should be more people just like, nah, man, I'm not doing this no more. He shouldn't have all that. That, like, y'all be holding amounts of money that damn near seem mythic. Amounts of money so so bountiful. It's like you I don't even think you'd notice if I stole from you. I don't even think your accountant would notice if I stole from you. You would make that back quicker than it would take for me to steal it. And honestly, I'm very suspicious of the fact that, like, there's this, like, that because of this digital age, this surveillance state age, especially with the dependence on tech, they're gonna start truly phasing out the physical dollar, and everybody's money is gonna be fake. I mean, at that point, will the bank still crash if everybody's money is imaginary? It's just a bunch of ones and zeros on, like, a device somewhere. Because feasibly, there's money in my account, yeah, but I don't have any physical dollars. So if my phone died and my bank just blew up, would I just be broke? Would all the money that I have in my name just be gone? Uninsured? Probably. The bank is insured, though, somehow. But me, as a consumer, as a laborer, good luck, buddy. So the money that we're slaving over cannot be trusted. It's barely secure. I hope my dog okay, because he get active. But these jobs aren't secure because they can replace us with robots, replace us with anyone else that's also just trying to make a living. It's like this society is showing it's unstable, and we're still putting our bets on it. We're still putting stock into it. We're still investing in this. I learned in my biology class that this whole thing we got going has been unsustainable for a while. And so my biggest gripe with this XAI is these tech facilities, Colossus, these supercomputers. They are physical constructs of the symbolic cancers that have been festering and ruining our society. And it's maddening, especially as a black person, because it's like, you white folks built a utopia on someone else's land, stole other people to till that land and get it built, lied to us and said that our heaven is in the skies, and now you won't defend it. You got put in hell for some greater white man to have his heaven, and you still won't get up and do something about it. This is what I was talking about. Like, some of y'all white folks don't even be happy for real. Like, some of y'all only feel good if someone else is doing worse. And maybe that's why some of y'all haven't spoken up. You don't even know how to measure your own content, measure your own happiness. This individualistic nature of American society is going to have us all dead and alone. People are not truly meant to just be these solitary creatures. That's why we're sociable. That's probably why we're conscious in the first place. Because humanity works the best in groups. And then to see this wave of, well, not wave of white supremacy, it's always exists. These Klux members, these honks have always existed, man. These honks have always existed. And it's so strange to truly sit back and realize, like, I have ancestors living that have lived through decades of the lynching period in the U.S. Because post-slavery, that's when them hoes start. Or at least that's when them hoes get normalized, their spectacles, their public views. These lynchings, these tortures, these rituals. They're rituals. In my comic E-Kings, when I'm talking about, everything I talk about here has essentially been put in my comic. Because, especially with the whole thing of my name earlier, what I'm essentially getting at, hold on. Let's let that pass because my folks is slick, a little loud in the back. But what I'm essentially talking about is words matter. The abstract has just as much influence as the concrete. And so words contain that. It allows for the abstract to have influence, to have power. And so our world is defined by that. It hinges on the words we speak. They're a magic that slowly we're starting to lose. I mean, nowadays kids barely are reading. People don't even read books anymore. People only speak for function. You know, like a lot of y'all don't even realize like just how versatile words are and what they're really meant for. The true magic within them, and that's kind of what I'm writing with my comic E Kings. The ability to speak power into existence, to actualize, to make the abstract tangible. That is what an orator is in E Kings. I'm trying to explore the value of words, the value of connecting heart to heart. They've stolen a deep magic from us, but we think it's supposed to be like sorcery. No, it's connection, it's empathy. They've stolen that magic from us, and they want us to think that the next man doesn't matter, that we're all going through different things unrelated. But that is truly not the case at all. And this honestly might be the quickest 40 minutes. This is the quickest 40 minutes of my life. Usually it takes me longer to speak 20 on this podcast, but I had a lot to say. And, you know, they typically could be like an hour long, but honestly, like, I say my whole thing is just more of like, they probably would be longer with a guest. Also, I should definitely remind you, I have a Patreon. So if you want to read E Kings and catch up, be ahead of everyone else on the webtoon, read the Patreon. Because chapters come out monthly on the E Kings webtoon. And I know a lot of manga come out weekly or even bi-weekly, but I'm one person. I'm one guy working on this comic, and I still have to make a living. So I would like your support, but do know I will work on 8 Kings, and there is free accessibility for those who want to read it and don't have the money to pitch in. But you can also support my Patreon for free. You can be a free patron. There's nothing wrong with that. But also, please, 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 check out my feature on the Listening While Living podcast. I'm supposed to record another episode with them maybe this week if the weather isn't too unforgiving and if I can also get my car working. But we had a video talking about, or a podcast episode about being woke in the South, so you could give that a listen because I enjoyed the conversation and I'd love to be back there. I think our next episode that we were supposed to have planned to talk about is Sinners. I'm going to yap about our feelings on that. But y'all probably seen my video on Sinners, so you know how I feel about the movie. I came out fairly quick with that vid. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel so you can actually be notified when I upload, when things come out. Please comment so that you tell me how you feel, because what you say matters. How you feel matters. You are just as important to this channel as I am, supposedly, because y'all make this happen. But beside from that, read E Kings on Webtoon. Maybe support my Instagram, my TikTok, my Patreon. Listen to my feature on Listening While Living podcast on Spotify. And actually, I think that's it. I don't want to hold you too long, because you've got to make your daily doodle, and please get in the green. I appreciate y'all for coming to the Lily Pad Porch Chat podcast to talk to Brother Bullfrog. Y'all are lovely people. Lovely tadpoles, lovely frogs, lovely ivy folk. I appreciate you for listening. But that's all from me. Bye, y'all!